Tom Cruise has an affinity for old-time rock and roll. He frequently references its classic and enduring sounds in interviews and movies. He's even gone to great lengths to replicate the experience in some of his films. To Cruise, 50s rock and roll is iconic and irrevocable. It marks a time where the world went wild for a new breed of music. It was a pivotal moment in modern history. The old-time rock and roll scene was full of one-time greats and timeless hipsters. Bill Haley was at the vanguard, bringing his oversized sound to the forefront of popular music. Chuck Berry was another icon of the era, with his combination of twangy blues and frenzied performance style taking the US by storm. His influence still rings true. Elvis Presley was the king of the genre, and his spicy blend of rock and country was unique. He had an unforgettable swagger on your that made him a living legend. Artists such as Little Richard, Buddy Holly, and Jerry Lee Lewis also had a huge impact on the old-time rock and roll scene. Their hits had an energy and verve that had yet to be seen. For Tom Cruise, old-time rock and roll was a vehicle for self-expression. The classic sounds made him feel he could be anyone he wanted to be. In his films, Cruise has gone to great lengths to recreate the experience of a classic rock and roll show. He always wants to pay homage to the artists that inspired him. The music has traveled with Cruise throughout his career. As a young actor, he was photographed listening to old-time rock and roll on a Walkman. Cruise's appreciation for classic rock and roll is genuine and endearing. The genre has allowed him to express his thoughts in a unique and exciting way. Whenever Cruise lets loose and pays tribute to classic rock and roll, it's clear to see why the genre is still relevant in today's musical landscape. His enthusiasm for the genre has been contagious, and his understanding of the scene deep. He's become a rock and roll icon in his own right. Cruise may not be the lead vocalist behind old-time rock and roll, but he's definitely its most passionate advocate. His love for the music has created a lasting legacy. There's something special about hearing Cruise's voice come through classic tunes. Old-time rock and roll has been a major influence on Cruise's look and attitude. He's modeled his own style on the decade's icons. Cruise has incorporated classic rock and roll into several of his films. Music plays a big part in some of his most successful works. His appreciation for old-time rock and roll was always apparent. He often speaks of the genre in interviews and when discussing his movie projects. Cruise puts great emphasis on the importance of preserving the history of the genre. He holds up the music as an example of creativity and ingenuity. As television and radio become ever more dominated by modern sounds, Cruise is a vocal supporter of keeping classic rock and roll alive. Cruise never forgets the past and strives to spread its influence further. It's become a part of his mission to ensure old-time rock and roll doesn't fade away. He's constantly encouraged people to discover the delights of classic rock and roll. His enthusiasm is a testament to how important it is to preserve the genre. Cruz is a passionate collector of classic rock and roll records. His knowledge of the genre runs deep, and he's a reliable source of information for true fans. To Cruz, there's no substitute for old-time rock and roll. Its chunky guitars and infectious rhythms are timeless and everlasting. He often states that it's through classic music that we can understand our true place in the pop culture. Cruz believes that listening to old-time rock and roll is a life-affirming experience. He encourages us to tap into its energy and soak up its carefree vibes.